Hello guys, and welcome to my little office. I won't zoom the camera around too much because it can get very dizzy, but just behind me down there you can see my materials, and here's a project I've been working on, so just bear with us. Okay, so this project basically is aimed at a demonstration board, so it's a 2x1 board, and the idea is I just wanted to get some rocky scenery on and some flocking. Now this is not snow, as everyone is now believing all I deal with is snow. This is a covering of the styrofoam to make it rock hard and solid to give it a more durable finish. Here we have some of the rocks that I've been moulding. I know a few bits and pieces, and then we have a mix mash here. So the intention for this piece of scenery is all of this will be flocked green. I've managed to sand out a nice groovy area here. It's not that easy to see, but when the flock is on it should improve. So that's one of the projects that I've got presently at hand. Okay, so now we're going to move into the other room and I'll show you some bits and pieces with regarding the Angmar board that I'm finishing up. Okay guys, and here is the piece that I actually put on the Facebook pages for people to take a look-see. Just move this baby around here and give you an impression of scale. So we'll take the Witch King and we'll have him placed like so, and whoa, the snow isn't working here. And then easy steps up, as you can see. So it's a very playable model. The building, which I've had a few comments from some people who say they don't actually particularly like the building aesthetically, and that's because I'm predominantly a Hobbit player. So the system I play is Lord of the Rings Hobbit, and this piece, which is from the Garden of Moor, you can actually just see the snow gathering on the inside as well, and on the gates, if that can zoom in, some icy effects. The Garden of Moor, as I said, which is a more fantasy and possibly even a 40k piece. It's very gothic-like, a bit too gothic for the Hobbit. So a few comments on that from friends, and they're all very constructive comments, but I just thought that I'd show you the piece finished. Now you can see how I mentioned in another video, I believe, how grainy the snow can get. But what I've been working on is I've been working on this, which is kind of like an icy effect. And this has worked out quite well. I could have done with a bit more detail on the rim of it, indeed, and it is short. In fact, both of them. In fact, all of the pieces of scenery on this board are short of foliage, which is something I can actually put in at any point, but I think the key thing is I just wanted to get this finished in time for a video and show how it fits in. So, bringing over the Witch King himself, I think you'll agree that it just seems to fit in nicely. Sorry about all the movement around. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll crack on downstairs and we'll look at finishing off another piece similar to this, just show you how I progress through it. Okay, speak to you in a minute, guys. Okay, so I'm sat here and I'm thinking, right, this is going to go on for at least another hour. So instead, why don't I just push up the speed dramatically and give a bit of a voiceover over it and see if that kicks in. Right, so I've got my airbrush. I'm not 1000% proficient at my airbrush. I broke it recently. The inside nozzle went and I just got it repaired today. So I'm cracking on with a number of scale paints here.
Now, whilst I was doing this, I was actually talking about hints and tips about using bits and pieces, and I realised that this is my very first painting video other than my Mahud army, and especially my very first scenery. So I thought really what we'd do is we just go down through the basic techniques of what I'm trying to get. So I've basically sprayed most of the model with a dark blue. I don't recall the name of it, I do apologise. But I'm progressively working down slowly but surely. In the syringe there's thinners, there's a bit of water in the cup, and I'm just mixing that up to a very, very milky wet consistency, and now I'm just highlighting bits and pieces. You can see that the model of the tomb, the Gothic tomb, has been practically finished painting. I have some silver on that, and I've done up the tiles and I've kind of a, I don't know, copper zinc, is it zinc? Yeah, zinc covering. The paints I used were not zinc, but that's beside the point. Okay, so anyway, listen, I've got to fill, 12 minutes of nattering to you when I actually did nearly half an hour of nattering. I keep on filling up the airbrush, keep on cracking on. Now, the key thing about this model is that it doesn't really matter how badly or how thickly the paint goes on in this initial airbrush stage, because this is just giving not necessarily an undercoat but an under spray for the highlights to really be picked out on. As I was doing this, I was also contemplating the areas that were going to cause me grief. Some of the rocks that you can see, especially the back one there, is very flat and there's straight lines and the like. But I realised that in time, as I come to the highlighting and then I come to do some soil effects, I'll find that I'll be able to then, with snow, cover up any problems with the terrain. Now, I think that's why I love snow so much, because it just allows me to make serious errors with the painting or with the construction of the model, and I can then fix up those details with a good layer of snow. A newbie's version of cheating, perhaps. So I've just cleaned out the airbrush. I've got a few more pieces, another 2 more pieces that I want to get done, and rather than doing it one at a time, I've decided I'm just going to go back to basics with all the airbrush again and start from scratch with these 2 models, do them at the same time and build them up nice and quick. And with the airbrush, that's easily done. Then I'll come back with further highlights on these, and then both of the 3 models will be ready for the dry brushing effect. Now, here again, I'm just concentrating on areas that maybe the eye didn't catch when I was actually painting it black, some of the areas that may be knocked off, because remember, I've only just recently refined my PVA spray, which, thank you very much to Terraniacs and to Mel and all the guys there on the both YouTube and the Facebook page for giving me some assistance when I was asking what sort of ratio for PVA and what sort of ratio for the water. Some great advice that allowed me to get my spray sorted, and yeah, everything's solidly locked down. But because there's a lot of small bits of stone and cork and styrofoam, I just want to make sure that I'm carefully handling this. Now, this model, I'm cautious about the wooden platform. There's a few pieces of wood from construction strewn around the floor, and there's also the bust, the head bust of the broken statue. And these are one of the statues from the Osgiliath Games Workshop scenery piece. And what I've done is I've gone away and I've broken it. I've put some green stuff around the top to indicate where there is some kind of bars with spikes on them holding the piece together after the head had been chopped off, perhaps in transition to being what's the word I'm looking for, remolded in Angmar's image, I mean, an image of the Witch King or something else, or an orc leader. Now, with the spray, I've got to make sure that it goes on as dry as possible, obviously, so it dries quickly, so I can quickly progress through this, not a tutorial, but a demonstration. But at the same time, I need to blast it with a lot of things. And the pressure I think I've got it at is 20 bar rather than 15 to 12 when I'm using for more detailed stuff. So I'm really getting it blasted on, but it also means that I'm going through paint quite quickly. Because it's got a very, very black base coat, in a sense, primer as well, it's very difficult to notice the subtle changes of the blues as I go down through the lighter tones. But I'm getting it done here. I'm looking for the corners, the edges, anything that will get this highlight up. Now, halfway through this, it's looking quite funny to see me go at that speed. I wish I could go at that speed for painting, but obviously it takes a bit more time. Now I'm considering the paints to use, whether I'm going to use one blue or whether I'm going to use a lighter blue and jump a step or two. I go back and I start thinking about, oh, maybe a darker blue, because I've totally forgotten in my haste what processes I did for the very first larger model and the model out in front of you. So we're going to crack on here, mixing up the thinner, mixing up the water as well, and trying to get that into the airbrush. Airbrushes, I'm finding, are just a dream come true. Otherwise there'd be a lot of painting. And since improving my level of equipment, I've found that both airbrushes and various paints and pigments just make my life so much easier and so much quicker. But it also makes it a bit more difficult. Sounds a bit moronic that I've now got more projects on the go, as you've seen at the start of the video, rather than a couple of projects just straight at hand. The miniatures in front need to be painted up. I need to strip some of the models that I took to Nova because they got damaged, either by lending them out or by bringing them back in transport. So again, slowly but surely looking at some of the rock faces on that one. I'm kind of diversifying, just trying to fill the time, when yet I filled the time perfectly as I was doing it. But when I showed this to Kate, my partner, she was saying, it's a bit long drawn out, Dave. I'm getting bored. It's, the same old drag on. And I suddenly realized I needed to speed this up. So no better way than to do this. Perhaps I should introduce some music at some point. La, da, 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 da. Anything like that that'll help the time go. But at this moment in time, as this is my very, very first tutorial / demonstration of how to do these models, notice I'm focusing more on the painting of them than the constructing of them. I will look at doing that, but I really don't want to step on other terrain makers' toes just yet. In fact, I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but at the same time I do want to try and get these videos out onto Facebook's pages and get people interested and hopefully get some good comments. I was really delighted with the comments that I got from my original larger one, which worked out very well. So now these three, hopefully I'm going to crack these on. Now time is slowly moving on. I'm still just highlighting these up, and it's very, very difficult to do this. So I'm just going to leave you to watch this for a short while, and I'll come back with any points that need to be added, rather than just listening to me yabber on all the time. Okay, so I'm down to the final highlight now. Again, just mixing this up and getting that sorted, and once this is all highlighted, all the three modules, all the three scenery pieces will be ready to rock and roll. So what we'll do is we'll just cut it here, and after I've started highlighting these parts, we'll just move straight on to the next part. Okay, so guys, bear with me in a second.
Hello again, guys. I just rabbited on and on and on. I don't know if I actually got this on film. I'll only do that when I'm actually piecing the whole thing together. But I managed to get these two pieces highlighted up with the dry brush as well. Same sort of thing. I just opened up my snow, and it's a different sort of snow that I'm used to. So that'll make it interesting. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack on with these, and I'm going to start bringing them up the dry brush to a level that I want. So firstly, I had to go and get myself some paints. I couldn't get the ones I wanted, so I reverted back to good old GW, because I just wanted something to kind of get these up, but I also wanted something in preparation for the limestone. So I got Administratum Grey, Altuan Grey, and Version Grey, or Fenrisian Grey. I am disgusted that they changed this name. It used to be Space Wolf, and this is my Space Wolf Grey. Yeah, I think it's more like that, to be honest. I don't know if you can see that, but hey ho. Right, there you go. Games Workshop confusing an old man like me. I want Lightning Bolt Blue, or do I want Moody Blue? No, we'll start with Ultramarine Blue, and we'll kind of work up with that with the dry brushing. So next thing is find my dry brush. Now in here somewhere. Hello. You get kind of like an attack of the killer mouth. There's a dry brush here, and I want some blue paper. Blue paper, great. Does everything, soaks it all up. And let's put some of this now. These pots aren't that old. This pot and this one here, the blue-grey, they are, what, 27, 28 years old? I don't know, I think these are 20, 22. Great. I like having old paints, but then I think that reflects back on the fact that I actually like having old names as well, you know, Space Wolf Grey and stuff, and all of that now changing. So let's didn't have dry brushes this size when I was, yeah, there we go. Let's see how this works out. Now, I'm not worried about losing some of the bits and pieces off this, because I know it's going to break off, and that's fine. But luckily, I have repairability skills. You know, if a small bit gets knocked off, that's fine. I can just cover it with a bit of black. And remember, I am going over all of this with the soil effect later on, so I will be able to pull out what I want. And because it's a big item, it's not like a model where you're looking at every fine detail. For a bit of scenery like this, you're looking at it from a distance. I mean, yeah, by all means, please come take a look at the model up close. And as a terrain, am I a terrain maker? I suppose I am. As a terrain maker, it's my job to try and con your eye into believing that what you see is both natural or logical. If it's not, then your mind is going to say otherwise. For instance, here we've got very straight lines here and a bit of gap there. So I know that that looks wrong at the moment, but I also know that with my snow effects coming in at a later point, that'll really be able to be hidden, or I can even add a point to it later on. So I'm not really overly concerned about the fine detail right now. As I'm sure you can gathered, I've decided to just speed through this one again. Obviously, all I'm doing is highlighting. I've highlighted a little bit with the airbrush to get a good strong coverage. Now I'm straight into my 3 paints. And I'm just going to progressively go up
and up through these paints, making them lighter and lighter. I don't want to overly brighten them too much, because remember, there's hideous blue, by the way. So I actually haven't gone into the 3 paints that I've just bought from Games Workshop yet. I'm still on my old paints, slowly bringing up to a paint system where I can get those lighter colours on. But as I said, I don't want to just blast the lighter colours on. I'll come back at a later date with more projects, and I'll do more of a limestone effect covering, possibly look at some of the leopard spotting effects on large rocky outcrops as well. But presently I just want to try and get these things highlighted up slowly but surely, because I'm eager to try and get them on the table as soon as possible, because then once these 3 pieces are done, there is some detail to do on this piece, of course, the wood and the statue and the pieces of broken construction beams that are on the floor, and a few bits and pieces that I can add as well in time. I just want to try and make this piece pop extremely well, whereas all the other pieces are will be bland in comparison. This will be a nice piece on the table to go with everything else. Still, the Angmar / Northern rocky outcrop waste, not tundra, but forbidden lands sort of approach. So, with the dry brushing, I'm eager to try and... My patience isn't great, so I'm eager to get the lighter colours on, but at the same time, I have to be aware that slowly but surely, softly, catchy monkey, whatever analogy you want to use, patience will win through. And though speed painting with miniatures is one thing and speed painting scenery is another, when you get the close critical eye, which you will have yourself, because you'll never be fully happy with your own produce, your own construction, you'll always think that there's something better that could be done with it. If you're a sort of person who can sit back and go, yes, that's amazing, then fair due to you. You're a better man, better woman, better terrain maker than I am. A better painter, in fact. I'm always criticizing. So here we go on to some of the lighter stuff now. It's really, really light, but if I put it on the dry brush and really give the dry brush a good hammering on the blue paper, it'll bring it down to little flecks, and it won't be such a harsh transition. That's the important thing at this point, making sure there isn't a harsh transition. But again, it's scenery. And I can come back, and I talk a lot about snow, but I can come back with rubble, I can come back with sand, I can come back with soil effects, I can come back and touch up anything I want. Now notice one thing I haven't done is I haven't tried to put any coloration or discoloration in slate. The only reason, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's very rare that it's so obvious. It'll be a slight, very, very faint discoloration. So I'm achieving that solely just by the dry brushing presently, and later on the little errors and mistakes I make with the soil pigments, that will get onto some of this slate, the slate steps and the slate rocky outcrops that are sticking out. It'll get onto that, and it'll give minor effects. Okay, so that's where I'm at the moment with that. So the next stage for this is to actually just let me get these steps a bit more. And these rocky crag aspects, just pull them out a little bit more. So let's oh, that dry brush is actually dry. Let me show you what I'm going to do next, and then I'll stop the video there and we'll crack on.